I gave a homeless stranger the keys to my lake house. When I came back 6 months later, I found my missing mother living there, but she didn't recognize me. My mom had vanished without a trace. Police had no leads. Private detectives hit dead ends. I'd searched for months. Nothing. Then I walked into my own property and saw her, holding a stranger's baby, smiling, happy. She looked right at me and said, "Do I know you?" This is the story of how a single act of kindness brought my mother home, but cost me everything I thought I knew about family. My name is Natalie Chen, and the night everything fell apart started like any other exhausting Tuesday. I pulled my BMW into the driveway at 11:47 p.m., leaned my head back against the leather seat, closed my eyes for just a moment. 62 years old, and my body was screaming at me to stop. The day had been brutal. Contract negotiations until 7. Emergency at the distribution center until 9. Then 2 more hours reviewing financial projections that made my eyes cross. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My Korean features were drawn tight with exhaustion. Silver streaks ran through my black hair I used to dye religiously until I just stopped caring. Fine lines creased the corners of my eyes. 35 years ago, when Dad handed me the reins of Chen Industries, I looked so different, young, energized, ready to conquer the world. Now, every day felt like a war I was barely winning. I grabbed my briefcase from the passenger seat and headed inside. The house was quiet except for the low murmur of a television coming from the den. I kicked off my heels, hung up my coat, and there she was. My mother, Margaret Chen, sitting in her usual spot, teacup half empty, eyes glued to some cooking show. "Almost midnight again," she said without looking at me. Her voice carried that edge I'd grown to dread. "When are you going to stop killing yourself and actually live?" Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the wine I'd had at dinner with the lawyers. Maybe it was just 35 years of this same conversation finally reaching its breaking point. I walked to the bar cart, poured myself a generous glass of red wine. "Enough, Mom." My voice came out louder than I meant it to. "I hear this every single night. Every single night." Margaret finally turned away from the television. Her face showed genuine confusion. "What lectures? I'm worried about you. You work yourself to death. You have no life outside this company." "And whose fault is that?" I cut her off, took a large gulp of wine. It burned going down, but I didn't stop. "Whose fault, Mom? You and Dad made me this way. If you think you know where this is going, stay with me. It gets worse before it gets better." Margaret straightened in her chair. "What are you talking about?" And just like that, the dam broke. All the words I'd been swallowing for decades came flooding out. "Daniel," I said, and even saying his name hurt. "Remember him? The architecture student you said wasn't good enough for me?" I drained half the wineglass. "He loved me, Mom. Actually loved me. But you and Dad convinced me he had no ambition, no future. That I deserved better. Natalie, that was over 30 years ago." "And then there was James," I continued, not letting her finish. "Dad's competitor. Too ambitious, you said. He'll steal the company, destroy everything we built." I laughed bitterly. "And then it was wrong timing, or focus on your MBA, or the company needs you. Always something. Always a reason why no one was good enough." Margaret's face had gone pale. "And then Dad died." My voice dropped to barely a whisper. "And suddenly I'm 27 years old running a multi-million-dollar manufacturing company. When was I supposed to meet someone, Mom? When I was working 16-hour days just to keep Dad's legacy alive?" "We wanted what was best for you," Margaret said, but her voice wavered. "Best for me?" I laughed, and it sounded hysterical even to my own ears. "I'm 62 years old. No husband, no children, no grandchildren for you to spoil like you're always complaining about. Just a daughter who runs herself into the ground maintaining a company she never wanted." "Don't you dare blame us for your choices." Margaret stood up, face flushed with anger. "No one forced you to take over the company." "Didn't you?" I was shouting now, tears streaming down my face. "Dad was in the hospital begging me not to let his life's work die. You cried every single day saying if I didn't take control, we'd lose everything. That his legacy would turn to dust. How could I say no to that?" Silence crashed between us like a physical thing. Margaret's shoulders trembled. "I didn't know you felt this way." "Of course you didn't." I wiped my tears roughly. "You never asked what I wanted. You always knew better. I set down the empty wine glass. I need to sleep. Big meeting tomorrow. I walked toward the stairs, but stopped at the doorway without turning around. You're right about one thing, Mom. I missed my chance at a life. But it didn't happen because I chose work. It happened because you and Dad never let me choose anything else. I went upstairs, closed my bedroom door, leaned against it. Downstairs, the light was still on. I knew nothing would change. Mom would always believe she was right. Tomorrow we'd be cold and polite, pretending tonight never happened. Just like always. This fight changed everything, but not in the way I expected. I woke up with a splitting headache and regret sitting like a stone in my stomach. 7:15 a.m. Time to get ready. I came downstairs expecting the usual awkward silence. But Mom wasn't in the kitchen. Usually Margaret was up by 6, coffee brewing, newspaper spread across the table. The kitchen was her domain in the mornings. Today? Empty. She's probably still upset from last night, I thought, pouring coffee from the automatic machine. I ate a quick breakfast, left a note on the counter, working late, don't wait up. And I left. The office swallowed me whole. My COO, David Park, brought contract revisions. The legal team needed signatures. Investors were calling. I buried myself in work, trying not to think about the guilt gnawing at my insides. Around 2:30 p.m., my phone rang. Rosa, our housekeeper. I frowned. Rosa never called unless something was seriously wrong. Yes? Miss Chen. Rosa's voice was shaking. Your mother is missing. The world tilted. What do you mean, missing? She wasn't in the kitchen this morning. I thought she was sleeping late, but at 10 a.m., she still hadn't come out. I checked her room, the bed is made. She's not there. I searched the whole house, Miss Chen, the yard, the street. She's nowhere. My heart stopped. Rosa, are you absolutely sure? Yes. And her phone is on her nightstand. Her purse is in her closet. Everything is here. But Mrs. Chen is gone. What happened next turned my world completely upside down. Keep watching. I left the office immediately. David, cancel everything. I told my COO. My mother's missing. I need to find her. Missing? How? I don't know. Just handle things here. I'll call you. I drove home breaking every speed limit. Rosa met me at the door, wringing her hands. I've looked everywhere, Miss Chen. I even walked around the neighborhood calling for her. I ran upstairs to Mom's room. Everything was exactly as Rosa said. Bed perfectly made. Phone on the nightstand. Reading glasses on the dresser. Her favorite cardigan hung over the chair. But no Mom. I started calling her friends. First was Helen Wu, her closest friend from church. Helen, is my mother with you? No, sweetheart. Why? Is something wrong? We can't find her. If she calls you, please let me know immediately. I called 6 more friends. Same answer every time. Then a thought hit me. The cemetery. Mom visited Dad's grave every week. Maybe after our fight, she went there to talk to him. To the one person who always understood her. I drove to Riverside Cemetery, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Please be there. Please be okay. I practically ran through the cemetery gates, following the familiar path to Dad's grave. The headstone came into view. Fresh flowers lay against the polished granite. Mom must have been here recently. But she wasn't there now. I sank onto the stone bench beside the grave. Looked at Dad's photo engraved in the marble. Dad, I whispered. Where is she? I didn't mean to hurt her. I was just so tired of pretending everything was fine. Thomas Chen's face stared back at me, forever frozen at 58. No answers came. I pulled out my phone and started calling hospitals. Hi, did you admit a woman today? Margaret Chen, 79 years old? Asian, about 5'3", gray hair usually in a bun? Let me check. No, we don't have anyone by that name. I called 7 hospitals. Nothing. Then I went to the police station. The next 6 months were the worst of my life, and I had no idea how it would end. The detective at the police station was a tired-looking man named Harrison. I want to report a missing person. When did they go missing? This morning. Or possibly last night. He looked up at me. You're not sure? She's 79. My voice cracked. She has a heart condition. She left without her phone, her purse, anything. Detective Harrison took down all the information. Description: last known location. Medical conditions. Was there any conflict? Any reason she might have left voluntarily? I hesitated. We had an argument last night, but nothing that would make her disappear. I see. He wrote something down. Ma'am, in cases like this, people usually return on their own within 24 hours. Go home. Wait. If she's not back by tomorrow, we'll expand the search. But tomorrow came. And the day after. And the day after that? Mom didn't come home. The police searched, posted bulletins, checked surveillance cameras in the neighborhood. Nothing. I hired a private investigator, Marcus Webb, former LAPD, 20 years experience. He interviewed everyone Mom knew, checked hospitals within a 100-mile radius, reviewed footage from every camera he could access. 6 weeks later, he sat in my office with defeat written all over his face. Ms. Chen, I've hit a wall. Your mother left the house around 6 a.m. the morning after your argument. Then the trail goes completely cold. It's like she vanished into thin air. That's impossible, I said. People don't just vanish. I'm sorry, I'll keep looking, but I have to be honest. The longer someone is missing, the less likely. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Work became my only escape. I threw myself into contract negotiations with investors from Singapore, a deal that could transform the company. But I was a ghost, going through the motions, signing papers, making decisions. All while my mother was somewhere out there, lost, alone. Or worse. Every night I'd come home to that empty house and remember our last conversation. Every cruel word, every accusation. I didn't mean it, I'd think, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. I was just tired. I love you, Mom. Please come home. The negotiations dragged on. What was supposed to take 3 months stretched to 6. And through it all, Mom stayed missing. Then came the business trip that changed everything. Don't go anywhere. 6 months after Mom disappeared, I was standing in the departures terminal at LAX. The Singapore investors needed face-to-face meetings, multiple rounds. This wasn't something I could handle remotely. David, my COO, stood beside me reviewing the presentation one more time. Ms. Chen, this deal will position us perfectly for the Asian market expansion. Your father would be proud. I nodded numbly. My phone buzzed. Marcus Webb, the investigator. Any news? I'm sorry, Ms. Chen. Still nothing. The case has gone cold. I'll keep your file active, but... I understand. Thank you for trying. I hung up. 6 months. My mother had been gone for 6 months, and I was flying to another country for business. What kind of daughter does that? The kind who has 200 employees depending on her, I thought bitterly. The kind who can't let Dad's legacy fail. We should head to security, David said gently. I grabbed my carry-on and started walking. That's when I saw her. A young woman sitting on a concrete planter outside the terminal entrance. Mid-20s, maybe. Latina features. Beautiful bone structure. And in her arms, wrapped in a thin blanket that was completely inadequate for the cool October morning, was a baby. The woman's clothes were worn. Her hair needed washing. Her eyes had that hollow, exhausted look I'd seen in the mirror for months. But it was the baby that stopped me. So tiny, maybe 8 or 9 months old, sleeping against his mother's chest, one little hand curled into a fist. I should have kept walking. I had a flight to catch, a multi-million-dollar deal to close. But something made me stop. Maybe it was thinking about Mom, wondering if she was somewhere cold and alone like this woman. Maybe it was just exhaustion making me reckless. Excuse me, I approached carefully. Are you okay? The woman's head snapped up. Fear flashed across her face before she forced a smile. We're fine. Thank you. Her voice was educated, careful. This wasn't someone who'd been living on the streets for years. This was someone whose life had recently fallen apart. Do you have somewhere to stay? I asked gently. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink back. We'll figure something out. The baby stirred, making a small sound. The woman adjusted the blanket, trying to keep him warm. And suddenly, I was making a decision that would change everything. What I did next was completely insane. Everyone said so, but it saved more than one life. The decision. I reached into my purse and pulled out a set of keys. I have a lake house, I heard myself say, about an hour north of here. It's been sitting empty for years. The woman stared at me like I was speaking another language. What? I'm flying out for business. Several months, probably. The house is just sitting there. You and your baby. You need shelter. Take it. I held out the keys. I can't. The woman looked terrified. I don't even know you. Why would you? Because someone might be helping my mother right now. The words came out before I could stop them. And I want to believe that kindness still exists in the world. The woman's hands trembled as she slowly reached for the keys. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, just. I pulled out my phone and called my driver. Carlos, are you still in the parking structure? Yes, Ms. Chen. I need you to take someone to the lake house. Stock the place with groceries, baby supplies, whatever they need. The lake house? But. Please, Carlos. It's important. I turned back to the woman. My driver will take you there. There's heat, electricity, everything you need. Stay as long as you want. Why are you doing this? Tears were streaming down her face now. Because 6 months ago, my mother disappeared. And every day I pray someone is being kind to her, wherever she is. I scribbled my email on a business card. If you need anything, contact me. My name is Natalie. I'm Isabella, the woman whispered. And this is Marco. Nice to meet you both. I smiled, even though my heart was breaking. Carlos will be here in 2 minutes. He's trustworthy. You'll be safe. David appeared at my elbow. Miss Chen, we really need to go through security. I nodded, looked at Isabella one more time. I hope things get better for you. I hope you find your mother, she said softly. I walked away before I could change my mind. David waited until we were in the security line before speaking. Did you just give your lake house keys to a complete stranger? Yes. Miss Chen, that's incredibly risky. You don't know her. She could rob you blind, destroy the place, invite a dozen people to squat there. I know. Then why? Because I had to do something good, I said quietly. I had to believe that kindness matters, that helping someone isn't always stupid. David shook his head but didn't argue further. On the plane, I stared out the window as Los Angeles disappeared below us. Please let her be okay, I thought. Please let someone be taking care of Mom the way I just took care of Isabella. I had no idea I'd just set in motion the miracle I'd been praying for. The next 6 months tested everything I thought I knew. And when I finally came home, I wasn't prepared for what I found. Singapore was brutal. The investors were meticulous, demanding, and suspicious of every clause in the contract. What should have taken 3 months stretched to 6. Every night in my hotel room, I'd call Rosa. Any news? No, Miss Chen. I'm sorry, nothing. I'd call Marcus Webb. Still no leads. I'm sorry. I'd call Detective Harrison. The case is still open, but Miss Chen, after 6 months, you should prepare yourself. Prepare myself for what? For accepting my mother was dead? For living with the fact that our last conversation was a screaming match where I blamed her for ruining my life? I couldn't accept that. I wouldn't. Finally, the contracts were signed. Chen Industries now had a strategic partnership that would expand our reach across Southeast Asia. It was the biggest deal in the company's 40-year history. Dad would have been proud. But I felt nothing. The plane landed at LAX on a Tuesday afternoon. David met me at baggage claim. Congratulations, Miss Chen. The board is thrilled. Thank you. I grabbed my suitcase. I'm going to the lake house. David blinked. Not home? I need to check on it. Make sure Isabella didn't burn it down or something. You never heard from her? Once, about a week after I left. She emailed thanking me and said they were doing well. After that, nothing. And you're not worried? Honestly, I forgot about it. I've been a little preoccupied with the fact that my mother is still missing. The drive to Lake Arrowhead took 2 hours. I watched the familiar scenery pass by, the mountains, the pine trees, the winding roads. Dad bought this property when I was 15. We used to spend summers here. Mom would make elaborate picnics. Dad would rent a boat. After he died, I couldn't come here anymore. Too many memories. The house came into view, and I immediately noticed something was different. The flower beds were blooming, the shutters had been repainted, new curtains hung in the windows. The place looked alive. I got out of the car slowly, walked up the stone path. That's when I heard it, a child's laughter, high and bright, coming from the back garden. I followed the sound, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. rounded the corner of the house, and froze. What I saw next shattered my entire world. Stay with me, this is where everything changes. In the garden, sitting on a wooden bench near the pond, was an elderly woman. She wore a light blue dress. Her gray hair was styled neatly, and in her arms was a toddler, maybe 14 or 15 months old, laughing as she pointed at ducks on the water. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Because I knew that woman. I'd know her anywhere. Mom? The word came out as barely a whisper. The woman looked up. Our eyes met. And my world split in two. Because she looked at me with polite confusion. Like I was a stranger. I'm sorry, she said kindly. Do we know each other? My legs nearly gave out. Mom, it's me. Natalie, your daughter. I was walking toward her now, tears already streaming down my face. Margaret Chen, my mother, who'd been missing for 6 months, tilted her head slightly, studied my face. Natalie? She said the name like she was testing it. I don't think I know anyone by that name. You must have me confused with someone else. No, I choked out. No, Mom, it's me. We live in Pasadena. You've been missing for 6 months. We've been searching everywhere. Missing? Mom looked genuinely bewildered. I'm not missing. I've been right here. The back door opened. Isabella stepped out, carrying a tray with lemonade. She saw me and stopped dead. Natalie, Isabella, I couldn't take my eyes off my mother. How is she here? Isabella set down the tray carefully. I think you should sit down. The truth about what happened is more incredible than you can imagine. Keep watching. The truth. We sat at the patio table, me, Isabella, and my mother who didn't remember she was my mother. Marco toddled over and climbed into Mom's lap. She wrapped her arms around him naturally, smiling. Gamma, he said happily. My heart shattered into a million pieces. Tell me everything, I managed to say. From the beginning. Isabella took a deep breath. It was about 4 days after you gave me the keys. Marco and I were walking by the river. There's a bridge about a mile from here. She glanced at Mom. I saw her standing in the middle of the road. She looked completely lost, confused. I almost walked past, but something made me stop. What did she say? She asked where the house was. Said she was looking for the house. I asked which house, and she gave me this address. Your address. I stared at Mom. She was playing pat a cake with Marco, completely absorbed. So you brought her here? Yes. And when we walked in, Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She started crying. She walked through every room touching things. She kept saying, I know this place. I was here with Thomas. We were happy here. Thomas, my father. She remembers Dad? She remembers everything up until about 30 years ago, Isabella said quietly. She talks about her husband, about being a teacher, about her life before whatever happened to her. But not me, I whispered. She doesn't remember me at all. No, when I asked about family, about a daughter, she looked at me like I was crazy. I pressed my hands to my face, trying not to completely break down. I took her to a doctor in town, Isabella continued. He said she likely had a stroke. A small one, but enough to damage the parts of her brain that hold more recent memories. A stroke, I repeated numbly. The doctor said sometimes memory can come back. Sometimes it doesn't. He recommended getting her to a specialist, but Isabella looked embarrassed. She refused to go to any hospital, got really agitated. I couldn't force her. So you just took care of her? What else was I supposed to do? Isabella's voice was fierce now. Leave her wandering around alone and confused? She needed help, Natalie, and you'd just given me a home when I had nothing. How could I abandon someone who needed help? I looked at this young woman, this stranger I'd given my keys to on a whim, and felt something break open in my chest. You saved her, I whispered. All this time we were searching, and you were keeping her safe. I tried to find information about her, Isabella said, but she couldn't remember her last name, couldn't remember where she lived. All she knew was this house and her husband Thomas. Mom had started singing softly to Marco, a lullaby I remembered from my own childhood. The sound of it destroyed me. How have you been living? I asked. I got a job at the grocery store in town. The owner lets me bring Marco to work. Your mom watches him when I have longer shifts. She loves him. Gamma is my favorite, Marco announced seriously. And I'm yours, sweet boy, Mom said. kissing the top of his head. She had no idea she was talking to her daughter. No idea I'd been searching for her for 6 months. No idea our last conversation had been filled with anger and blame. What happened next tested everything I thought I knew about family. You won't believe how this ends. The healing. I called in the best neurologist in California, Dr. Raymond, who came to the lake house the next day. He examined Mom thoroughly, ordered brain scans, ran cognitive tests. Your mother suffered what we call a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, he explained to me privately. A mini stroke. The areas affected control long-term memory formation and retrieval. Will she ever remember me? Doctor whose face was kind but honest. Impossible to say. The brain is remarkably complex. Sometimes memory returns partially, sometimes completely, sometimes not at all. What do I do? Surround her with familiar things, photos, stories, love, and be patient. That night, I made a decision. Isabella, I said, I want you all to come live with me, in Pasadena. She looked up, shocked. What? You saved my mother's life. You gave up everything to take care of a stranger. The least I can do is give you a real home. Natalie, that's too much. It's not enough, I interrupted. I'm also offering you a job. You said you were an accountant before? Yes, but. No buts. You'll work at Chen Industries, real salary, benefits, daycare for Marco, and you'll all live with me. Tears streamed down Isabella's face. Why are you doing this? Because you did what I couldn't, I said simply. You were there when my mother needed someone. Now let me be here for you. We moved everyone to Pasadena the following week. I gave Isabella and Marco their own suite on the second floor. Set Mom up in her old room, filled with photos and familiar things. Enrolled Marco in the best daycare in the city. Hired Isabella as a junior accountant. And then I waited. Every day, I'd come home from work and spend time with Mom. She was pleasant, kind, but looked at me like a friendly acquaintance. Not her daughter, doctor who said to be patient, to keep sharing memories, keep showing her photos. 1 month passed, then 2, then 3. Slowly, tiny pieces started coming back. I remember this house, Mom said one day, looking around the living room. Thomas and I, we bought this when Natalie was small. My heart leaped. You remember Natalie? Our daughter, yes. She was important. I can't quite. Mom frowned, frustrated. It's like looking through fog. But it was something. A week later, I came home from work. Mom was in the kitchen making her famous dumplings, something she hadn't done in months. She looked up when I walked in. And something in her eyes changed. Natalie? Her voice was different. Uncertain but knowing. Yes, Mom? You're my daughter, she whispered. You're my girl. I remember. I crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and wrapped my arms around her. We both cried, held each other, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt like I could breathe again. The ending will surprise you. Stay with me. 6 months later, epilogue. I'm standing in my kitchen on a Sunday morning, watching my family. Yes, my family. Mom is at the stove making pancakes. She doesn't remember every detail of the last 30 years. Some things are still foggy, but she remembers me. She remembers our life together. And she remembers the fight. I'm sorry, she said to me 2 months ago, for pushing you so hard, for making you feel like you couldn't choose your own life. I'm sorry too, I whispered, for blaming you, for saying cruel things. We both made mistakes, Mom said, but we get to fix them now. Isabella sits at the kitchen table, reviewing financial reports for work. She's brilliant, got promoted twice in 6 months. Marco is playing with building blocks on the floor. David Park, my COO, is here too. He started coming to Sunday breakfast 3 months ago. We've been dating for 2 months. Turns out 35 years of no time for relationships was actually just waiting for the right person to show up. Someone who understood my world, my responsibilities, my drive. Someone who didn't need me to be anything other than who I am. Coffee? David asks, pouring me a cup. Thanks. Mom catches my eye and winks. She approves. Last week, Isabella got a call from her lawyer. Her abusive ex-husband signed the divorce papers. Gave up all parental claims to Marco in exchange for her not pressing charges for domestic violence. She's free. We're all free, in different ways. I learned something through all of this. The life I thought I'd lost, the family, the love, the connection, it wasn't gone. It was just waiting to be built differently. Not the way my parents planned. Not the way I thought it had to be. But in a way that was authentically mine. I gave a stranger my house keys at an airport. Everyone said it was reckless. Stupid. That I'd regret it. Instead, it brought my mother home. Gave Isabella and Marco a new life. And taught me that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards. Breakfast is ready, Mom announces. We gather around the table, this makeshift family built from kindness and second chances. And for the first time in 35 years, I'm not thinking about work. I'm not worried about the company. I'm not carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. I'm just here. Present, happy. Home. Final message. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me, what city are you watching from? What time is it where you are? Have you ever taken a risk on helping a stranger? Tell me about it. Because sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. And sometimes, the person you save ends up saving you right back. Thanks for staying with me through this whole story. I'll see you in the next one. Remember, never underestimate the power of one moment of compassion. It might just change everything.